Today, I'll be showing you guys how to clean and service a saltwater aquarium. The things you'll need to start out with is a razor blade, which I don't have one, so I'm using this piece of plastic to scrape the glass. A toothbrush to clean pumps. You will need a siphon hose to clean the sand, and a sponge as well to clean the glass. Also, you'll need, and this can vary, I just have a 5-gallon bucket because this tank's only 30 gallons. So one empty 5-gallon bucket, and then another 5-gallon bucket full of fresh salt water. So this is the aquarium. You can tell it's a little dirty right now. Definitely needs clean. So the first step in servicing the tank is you'll want to shut off the pumps, which these just shoot water across. We'll want to turn off the return pump, which is down here. And that's basically what just shoots water back up from the filter. So water drains through the tank down into the sump down here, and then the water returns back up through. And then we'll want to turn off the protein skimmer, which this cup is super full and should have been cleaned a while ago. But what we're going to do now is shut those off and clean them. I have all of my pumps on a single outlet strip, so I can just turn off the pumps, all the pumps at once. Makes it easy. And now we'll take them off and clean them. All right, so the next step after you turn off everything is remove the glass canopy. So we'll just set this to the side over here. And then what we'll want to do is pull out your pumps. Just going to set them right here. Alright, so this is real dirty. So what we'll do is just dump this cup out, all this gunk from the protein skimmer. And all the protein skimmer does is it's a cylinder that mixes water with air, and it pulls out like nasty gunk from your fish tank. So I'll go ahead and I will clean all this stuff off, clean all the gunk off. Just some hot water and a sponge should be able to get it fairly clean. Alright, and next we're going to clean off the pump. So again, just with the sponge, some hot water, just wipe it off, get all the algae and extra gunk off. Try to clean up inside of the propeller, inside of there, so it doesn't get gunked up. Alright, so after cleaning the pumps, the next thing we'll do is this filter stock. So how the tank works is right back here, you can see it, this, when the water fills up, it drains into this pipe right back here, and then it goes behind the tank and it runs through this pipe right here, and it goes right into this filter sock. And that's just like a fine filter sock that catches all the material and dirt and debris. So what we'll do is we'll take this outside and we will spray it off. So you can see it's a little bit cleaner. It's not gonna be perfectly clean. You can wash them in your washer and get things clean, but this is just how it's gonna be. Alright, and the next step, what we'll do is we're going to scrape the glass, get all the gunk and algae off of it. I don't know if you can shows up in video, but there is like this light algae on here, and the sponge will just scrape this right off like that. If I scoot back, you can't really see it, but there is like a light gunk on here. So the sponge is good for getting off light algae and stuff like that, but here in the corner I don't know if you can tell, it's real green and dark. The sponge doesn't do a real good job getting that off. So we'll need to take, usually you want a razor blade. I just got this piece of plastic here that's sharp. So I just take that and I will try my best to get all this algae off. And you just scrape it like that. While you're scraping it, make sure if you do have a razor blade, if it's a glass tank, there's a silicone edge right here. You don't want to scrape into that because you could cut open the tank and leak everywhere. But this may take some time. So you just want to get in there, get all the algae off the glass, get it all suspended in the air. So when you go to siphon it, it sucks it all up. Alright, so we just finished scraping off all the algae off the glass. And you can see how a lot of it now is suspended in the water. So all the algae is in the water column. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna siphon all of that out. And when we siphon, we're gonna get in here into the sand and siphon out some of the water. And that is going to be our next step in cleaning and servicing a reef tank. All right, so next we're gonna siphon the water. All the siphon does is you start the siphon, pours into the bucket, and since the siphon started, you stick the hose into the sand, and it pulls up all the gunk from the sand, but it keeps the sand there, so it's just constantly pulling out all of the gunk. So what we'll do is make sure there's no water in this hose. So if there's any leftover water from last time, I want to get it all out. And then we'll stick the bottom of the hose into the bucket. The way we start the siphon, stick the hose inside of here, inside of the tank like this, pull it up, you'll see the water start to come down. So I got the rock out of here, so we'll just start the siphon, the water starts to come down. And now water is siphoning from here into the bucket. Alright, you can come up close. Alright, so now to siphon it, stick the water in here, stick the hose in here, and just suck out all the gunk. If the tank's real dirty, you'll see like lots of black gunk and stuff coming up out of the water or out of the sand. This tank, the sand stays fairly clean, but this is an important part because a lot of your nasty gunk stays inside of the sand. So if you don't clean your sand out, you'll have a lot of issues with like ammonia and other algae. Happening in the tank. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go through. I'm going to siphon out all of the sand in this tank, go over every spot. If I need to, go over it a few times. This is all you do. You just pull the sand up, and then you kink the hose when the sand starts to come up so you don't siphon in the sand. And then it should just pull all the nasty algae and gunk out of the water. And don't worry about covering up the corals when you're siphoning out. You can just brush them off later. Right. So next what we're gonna do after we siphoned everything out is we're gonna dump the salt water, fresh salt water back in. So we've got the bucket with all the dirty water, which we'll dump out here in a second. And we've got the bucket with all the fresh water in here. Let's just pick this up, slowly dump it back into the tank. And you can make your own salt water. You can get salt water from the store. I make my own here. I mix my own salt water. But the important thing is to make sure your salinity of the water you're putting in is the same as your water that's already in the tank. This will help because if your salinity is different, it can stress out fish and corals, so you want to make sure your salinity is the same. And then also, since it's winter, or it's getting pretty cold outside, you want to make sure your bucket is the same temp, or close to the same temp as your fish tank. So if you're leaving water in the garage or in your car and stuff like that, it's going to get real cold, and you don't want to dump cold water in here because you could shock your fish. And then after we dump the water back in, what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and put all the pumps back. So all the pumps that I took out originally and cleaned off, we'll go ahead and reattach them on here. We'll take the protein skimmer cup and we'll go ahead and put it back on the protein skimmer underneath of the tank. And then I'm going to hit the switch again and turn everything back on. So right now we're just making sure that everything's working, that everything's kicking on, making sure that all the pumps work correctly, making sure there's water coming out, and everything's working right. So right now it looks like the return pump's working, and that's what's shooting the water back up. The skimmer's working, so that helps clean the water. Both of the pumps have kicked on, and it looks like everything is good to go. So the next thing we'll do is just make sure all the coral, there's no sand on the corals or anything like that. It's going to be a little cloudy, it's going to be a little dirty after you clean it because you just stirred up a lot of the gunk. So if it doesn't look spotless right away, that's fine. You do want it to look a little dirty because you do know that means you cleaned it. So the pumps are going to kick a lot of this gunk back up, and it's going to go right back into the filter sock and get cleaned out. So after we check to make sure everything's good, we'll go ahead and put our lid back on. And since now we've checked everything, everything's good, everything's working, all the corals are there, nothing's covered up, all the fish are still in there, nothing died, everything's good. We'll go ahead and dump out the water, and then you're all set. And that's basically how you will service a fish tank. Every tank's different, every setup's different. This is how you'd service this specific tank, and it does give you a general guideline of how you would service basically any tank. So it's about 10-11 steps that we just did. That's basically going to be universal throughout every tank. Obviously, there's differences in filtration, tank size, buckets. Sometimes if you're doing a great big tank, you're going to have big 55-gallon drums of water that you're pulling water in and out of and siphoning and stuff. Equipment can be a lot different as well. But generally, you're always going to have siphon out your tank, you're always going to have to clean your skimmer, and you're always going to have to clean your pumps. So, yeah, that's how you service the tank.